Hello. Let's just get right into it. We're in Matthew chapter 6, verse 16. When you fast, do not look somber as the hypocrites do, for they disfigure their faces to show men they are fasting. I tell you the truth, they have received their reward in full. But when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so that it will not be obvious to men that you are fasting, but only to your Father who is unseen. And your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. As I've mentioned before, fasting doesn't have to be just from food. This was just the most common and most ceremonial way to do it back then. Something important to note is that fasting works best with something good that you use too much. Fasting from something bad doesn't really make sense. You just shouldn't do the bad thing in the first place. I'm not an expert on it. You could probably go somewhere else if you want better information, but anyways, we can use this if we fast. Well, basically, just don't complain if you fast. And that's really it. Moving on to verse 19. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth and rust do not destroy, where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will also be. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are good, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? I've heard many things from people wondering what treasures are in heaven. There are many other verses about receiving crowns and other things in heaven. I love this one joke. I'll never forget it. Once there was a very rich businessman who was near death. Having worked hard all his life, he desperately wanted to be able to take some of his wealth with him to heaven, and was eventually given special permission by God to bring one suitcase. Overjoyed, the businessman gathered his largest suitcase, filled it with pure gold bars, and placed it beside his bed. Shortly afterward, the man died and showed up at the pearly gates, where he was greeted by Peter. Seeing the suitcase, Peter said, "Wait, you can't bring that in here." The businessman explained that he had been granted permission by God. Peter asked God if that was true, and it was confirmed. "Okay, you can bring it in, but may I look inside?" So Peter opened the suitcase, and as the lid sprang back to reveal the gold, Peter said, "You brought pavement?" So the lesson there is that no matter what you acquire on earth, it doesn't even compare to what you'll get in heaven. Whether or not the streets of heaven are actually paved with gold doesn't matter, because gold will be worthless. And I think the most important part is that the real reward is just to be in the presence of God and all of your friends and other things relating to your heart. And then I really like verse 24. Let's read it. No one can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. That's one of those things where, yes, it does pertain to money, but it really can just pertain to all things in life. No one can serve two masters. Master! Master! I'm getting a lot of heavy metal references, not much soft rock. Anyways. Another preference I could make would be, okay, so there's a movie called They Live, and basically aliens are living among us, but they disguise themselves and objects, and the only way to see them for what they truly are is through these glasses. And so the main character gets these glasses, and when he looks at money, it just says, "Behold your God." So the aliens probably got inspiration from this Bible verse. Too often we treat money as our God. Some live by it, and even if some of us don't think that way all the time, we still have at least once. It can be very difficult. I mean, it just seems like we can't exist without money. Food, transportation, shelter, it's hard not to think about it. However, what this section is saying is that you just shouldn't trust in earthly things. Having stuff isn't directly a problem, it's just that when you have something, you might get overly attached to it. So really, just don't get overly attached to your stuff, and you'll be fine. And this flows directly into the next section. We're reading verse 25 now. Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more important than food, and the body more important than your clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Who of you by worrying can add a single hour to his life? And why do you worry about clothes? See how the lilies of the field grow? They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all of his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? So do not worry, saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or what shall we wear? For the pagans run after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. So obviously, that's easier said than done. We worry about food, we worry about clothes, we worry about bank accounts, gas, pleasing your spouse, pleasing your boss, health, the economy, the list goes on. And it's hard because those things can mean a lot to us. It's how we live. We need gas to get to work on time to please our boss, and if we wear something bad, then our boss will be disappointed, and if the economy is bad, then our bank accounts might be low, and then we might be low on food, which might stir up arguments with our spouse, and then we get depression. There's just so much to worry about. And then you wonder, what's the point? Because Solomon was the richest person in the world, and now he's dead. Yeah, it's theorized that King Solomon was the richest person in history. Cool, huh? But anyways, he's dead, so who gives a darn? It's just so difficult because it's hard to see anything beyond the now. But there is something beyond the now. And I believe that's one of the main reasons for the Bible. We need to read it to understand that we shouldn't worry about earthly things. Let's finish reading. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Thanks for listening, guys.